And can we have a roll call for the tree committee?
Excuse me. Okay. Chair Simmons,
Here.
Vice Chair Gardner,
Here.
Committee Member Markham.
Here.
Committee Member Elvira,
Present.
Committee Member Walton. We have quorum.
We have a quorum. Let's take, are we doing a moment of silence and then the pledge? I guess so. Let's have a moment of silence and then if someone wants to volunteer to do a pledge of allegiance. So please stand. Okay. Would someone like on the committee to do the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now is the time for any special announcements or events of committee, either to the committee or the public. Do any committee members or staff have any announcements of interest? I'll just point out, Marine Tree and Garden Club had its biannual, semi-biannual garden tour yesterday. I think about 200, more than 250 tickets were sold. At least 200 people were out on the streets. So those are all supporters of the tree committee. So it's nice to see that much interest in our natural environment here in Marina. Okay, let's move on to item 5. Does anybody from the floor have any comments they'd like to make to the tree committee and not for items not on the agenda? Richard, you don't want to tell us what you're up to? Oh, that's good. Well, we'll see if we can undo that tonight, but it's good to see you. Okay, anybody have any ex parte communications to report? I'm not sure that Nick and I, who is technically, he's the applicant or the city's applicant, we went and walked the site on the blight site and the removal along Del Monte. So I think that's part of our official duties, but I'll report that. All right, what's we do next? The minutes from February 26th. Everybody's had a chance to look at them and decide they look okay. Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I motion we approve the agenda
The minutes
minutes from February 26, 20.
Okay, I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the public hearings. And what we want to look at are 2 items. The Del Monte Boulevard Street Tree Removal Permit, TR 24-03, and then TR 24-02, the Blight Removal Tree Removal Permit. And does staff have yes, staff has a report.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chair. So I'm going to start off with the City of Marina's tree removal request for tree removal for the Del Monte median project. This is the site location. It spans Del Monte's Boulevard's median, which is in the public right of way. It starts basically just off of Highway 1 and it goes all the way to Reservation Road. So the arborist inventoried all the trees. There's 22 trees on the site and is recommending 11 trees for removal. Of those 11 trees, 2 are just outside the coastal zone. So if you remember to the MST project, there's 1 tree within the coastal zone, which is a different process. That's the CDP process, but this is just wholly within the tree committee jurisdiction. So 100% just in normal City of Marina land. This is the table from the staff report. It lists all the trees and their health, any comments about the trees. There are 11 trees. Of the 11 trees, 9 of them are in poor condition with low tolerance for construction, meaning when they actually do the changes to the medians, they're going to reshape them and change them and then re-landscape them and make them refreshed. They won't do well with that process based on their health, according to the arborist, Patrick, who's in the audience. There are 2 that are in fair condition. They're myoporums. They're the 2 closest to the freeway, which I showed on the map previously. Here's pictures of them from the arborist report. They're tree numbers 566 and 567. You can see that they are similar in shape and size. 567 looks a little bit worse than 566 from the picture. This is the first part of the conceptual landscaping plan. So you can see that just off the freeway coming on from the left-hand side, that's Highway 1, and then you come down Del Monte Boulevard. This is a conceptual landscape plan. This has not been approved by the city council. And I just clipped it so you only see the first part because it's hard to see. So there is some talk about what will go where those 2 trees are. So it's better to have them removed so that way they can have space for potential signage or other stuff. And the landscape architect and the arborist both believe that there's better trees suited for this environment. And here's the second part. These graphics are in the staff report, so you can refer to them there as well. And these conceptual landscape plans will go before the city council either at the end of this month or early next month. So that's why we're here today. So without further ado, here's staff's recommendation for a motion. And we do have LV Camacho with Public Works. She's our project manager for this project. And so she can answer any Public Works questions. And then we have Patrick Klobuchar, who's our arborist for this project in the audience to answer any questions about the trees, why he recommended the removal of those 11, and any other questions you might have for him. So I turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Do any of the tree committee members have any clarifying questions for staff?
I did. I went down and looked at all of them and concur with all of the recommendations, although I'm concerned about 566 and 567. The trees did not look that bad and really were more victims of poor maintenance than anything else. If the arborist could go into a little more detail about the girdling roots and why it would be difficult to rehabilitate these trees and why the recommendation to remove.
Yeah, go ahead. You can open this thing. Yeah, go ahead and turn on the mic and everything. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, they're myoporums, so they're just ornamental trees, and they're super subject to thrips. And it didn't want to be the applicant or the project proponent didn't want that to be the centerpiece coming into town, because that's the first thing you see. So it's my understanding that there's going to be a big sign there, and it was removal more so for the development of the project than me recommending those ones, those 2. The rest of them were poor and they would not survive the construction. Those 2, I think from a health standpoint, yeah, you could prune them and get them back to good health. That's why I have them as fair. I don't have them as poor. I think if LV has more plans or anything on that of what's going there, then maybe she can give a better explanation of why they're being removed. Because it's not a health thing. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's not a health, it's development. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
That actually is one of my questions. Do we, I concur, my porm are probably not the best choice if you were to plant new, but they are existing trees, so maybe that's something to think about. But is there, do we have a plan, a conceptual plan of what's going in there?
You want these plans?
Just for the species are all gonna be debate or talked about in council. So there's no decision on what trees are to be planted.
That's a separate, maybe
Yeah,
a separate
that's a
matter.
separate thing.
Yeah.
So basically, the entrance over there, the island, the median gonna be treated with little walls and some, unique to the Marina area because we want to make a statement coming into town. So there will be some planting and there will be some, decorative where you could put flags, in special events type like that. And there's also mention about some lights in there. And obviously the planting will be presented to the city council, either the end of the last council meeting this month or the first council meeting next month. So we will go in detail on the design, but basically the frontage in there, why there's 2 trees are recommended to be removed. There is a plan to put in the entrance, the gateway to Marina is right there in the beginning of that, where that one first plant gonna be. And then they wanna plant something more beautiful than what's there now. So we don't know the species yet, but it will be discussed at the city council. But if you do have a recommendation, I would recommend, I could suggest for you to mention it so we could mention it in the staff report. What are your recommendation? What type of trees? So they could hear also what you want to see as a species to be planted. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, clarifying questions from committee members? I think we're ready to make a motion.
Bring it out to the public as well.
Of course. We have some public members. I looked over at Richard and I figured he'd speak up, but yes, are there any questions or comments from the public about the action item? And if you come, we'll ask you to come up
Yeah,
to say who you are and I think you have 3 minutes.
you have 3 minutes to speak.
Yeah, okay. My name is Jusik Choi. One thing I kind of concerned, but I just overheard from the lady over there because what was the plan for the replacement on the trees kind of move out? So where they're gonna do that and then what species they're gonna do? So I think I got the answer from majority of answer from the lady. over
Healthy.
there. Right. Healthy. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
What you guys are doing. So
Okay.
I just want to observe and kind of bring my heart on here. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. Any other comments?
Yeah, I've got
Can you state your name?
Richard St. John.
Yeah.
Former member of the tree committee. And citizen of Marina. My only question is the city required to replace trees in a 2-to-1 rule?
Yes.
Okay, the same as, okay. And then my comment is that I agree with the recommendations of staff. I think it's a solid plan. And I really look forward to the upcoming further beautification and signage project that the city has, and the revitalization of the Del Monte and reservation. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So, we should actually discuss amongst ourselves if we have any questions or discussion about the action item.
Just a technical matter. So after public comment, you just, for the record, just close the public hearing and then, yeah.
Okay, of course, the public hearing is now closed.
Yeah.
Public comment. Whack it with a hammer. So, no more discussion. But amongst ourselves, do we have any comments or questions?
Personally, I'm a little uncomfortable taking out trees that are reasonably healthy. And we haven't seen a plan for, so 566 and 567. I would prefer to have them come back and say, here's what's going to be done with them. In more specificity than just, we're going to put a sign there or make it look nice. So I would prefer that an approval be done on all the recommended trees except these two until they can come back and tell us specifically what's going to be. That would be my preference.
Okay. Any other?
Well, I just want to add that Myoporum is considered a pest and weed species. I don't know if our specific part of California, whether it's county, city, considers it a weed, but it is considered an invasive species in some parts where it has been introduced, Myoporum.
I have a different comment. We can come back to the Myoporum question. I wonder, I'm just thinking that, we do have a platform, so I think that in the city council, there are a lot of tree advocates on the council too, but I think we might make some recommendations about what might go in after, as I don't know if it's a condition for removal, but just something we add to our report. Is that appropriate, Nick?
Yeah, you can make recommendations
Yeah.
on what tree species you recommend.
Yeah, so the motion I'm thinking of adding to whatever motion we do is, and I actually have another question for staff. Do we know what's the average width of the median strips gonna be? How much space?
We are not redoing the island itself.
Yeah.
It will remain. We will just beautify it. Add some elements like walls and
Okay.
low.
So I thought I heard there was a plan for a single lane at some point, but
Oh, yes, there is also a plan in the future for they call it a road diet, where they're gonna have two roundabouts at the intersection of Rain Dollar and intersection of Pan, is it? Where, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's where they propose it, and it will narrow it down to
Yeah.
one lane.
so, I guess the reason I'm thinking about this is that the strip now ranges from pretty narrow, I think even 3 feet, to as wide as 5 feet in other sections, so that will make a difference in what trees might go in there. Maybe it's even wider than 5. Yeah, maybe it's 8 feet, 10 feet. Yeah, but in some sections, it's truly quite narrow.
I believe the concept plan in there shows some trees where she's proposing to put them.
It looks,
So,
you can see that in the end, the fat ends, it's
Mhm.
fat at one end and kind of in the middle, like a snake. Okay, well, the motion that I would like to tack on to whatever motion or not the motion, but a recommendation is that, we recommend to council that, there's a lot of interest in Marina about, kind of a city very connected to the environment, and so we consider well-suited street trees, including a mix of natives and other trees that are well adapted for our coastal environment and take consideration that the scale of the city is that we could really make a statement with nice trees, including some of those larger sections where you could plant coastal live oak, for example, or you could plant a cork bark oak, which could do very well in a spot like that. Probably be more favor for natives, but I think we can make a recommendation like that and just kind of lending our support and that kind of thinking to the council. They're gonna, I don't know who's gonna make the final recommendations. So planning architect will make some planning or some decisions or recommendations. That's just what I think we should tack on to, or something like that.
I agree. So the recommendation would be that staff work with the tree committee to come up with a list of replacement trees that are suitable for that area.
I don't know, the staff will like it like that. They usually just want us to make a decision and then leave them alone, but I'm joking just a little bit. I think we could say that and as a, we'd be willing to weigh in on it later, but we haven't had time to, I don't know that we're gonna get time to study. And just off the top of my head, I could say a few species, but it's the tree committee, unless it came back before us as a matter, I'm not sure we get to weigh in on it. What do you say, Nick?
So we do have a time of the essence with this project where Public Works is ready to go forward with this item to the city council. So you have a few options. You can recommend a handful of trees at this meeting. You can go before the city council and in public comment say, you know, we wanted to bring these trees, but we weren't able to come up with a complete list until today. So that's totally fine. You can also email staff later with a list if you would like.
Maybe we can do all three, all
Sure.
three of those
We can do-
options.
Sure.
Okay, let's go back to the main item. I'm a little bit sympathetic with your point of view, Jeff. For my poem, they're actually pretty good coastal tree. It is invasive in some parts of the world, but not to my knowledge, really in California and Australia, it's a huge problem. But the thrips problem isn't going away. And those trees happen to be doing pretty well right now. And probably if they keep getting water, they will. I see they're nice because they're trees. And I too would like to see what's the plan. I asked that question. I was like, well, what? And we're just going to take them out and wait or what? But sounds to me like they definitely want to do something there and we don't know exactly what. So I'm kind of leaning your way, but do you have a motion that you want to propose?
I would move that we accept the resolution as written with the removal of 566 and 567 to come back later when there is a plan that shows us what they're going to do.
Oh, if I may, we don't have that kind of time with this item. We can't bring this back again because we have to go, this has to go to the city council. So you can recommend to not have them removed and they be incorporated into the landscaping plan, or you can have them as part of the removal, but we won't be able to bring this back to you because of the timing for the city council item. So unfortunately, staff can't bring this back to you.
Can they recommend a replacement tree?
Yeah, they can recommend
Species?
replacement trees, but the graphic we have before you is all we were able to procure before this meeting from Bianca Koenig, the landscape architect. So that's all we have for this. There's no trees recommended for that. So you do have within your ability to recommend trees you would like to see replaced, or you can request that they be pruned and kept and not removed. So that's also within your jurisdiction to make that recommendation to the planning director.
I think we'll get overruled anyway at somewhere down the line. People are not big fans of my poem in this town. It's an old school tree that's on its way out, and I agree with you. I don't think we should just take trees down because, but I mean, in this case, I think maybe we should just make a motion. I am curious, why are we in what's the time sensitivity?
Yeah, please.
Um,
They just broke into the city offices.
Someone did?
who's car?
Can I
Is
say?
that a car? I think it's a
I
car.
think it's a car.
Nick was just starting to say something.
Oh, no, I was
Yeah.
passing it to LV.
Yeah.
It was kind of like one of the priority for the city council to have this project completed early next year. So in the next council meeting, that's where the last meeting that we presented this to the city council, we were directed to go back to them for the replacement, and they will be discussed at that meeting. So, and they are hoping to have this built early next year. So,
Okay.
Can I say something?
Mhm.
I agree with all of you really that those trees look only partially healthy. They have so much thripe in this town that they probably won't last. But what I think that removing them would be great and that we would make recommendations. It sounds like they'd be very interested in what we recommend. And the replanting is not going to take place right away anyways. So we have time to decide on that and make a recommendation. Sounds like they're very open to recommendations, or at least giving them a list of trees that we would like to see.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'll go ahead and make the motion. We recommend, the motion is recommend that the community development director or their designee approve the removal of 11 trees in the public right of way on Del Monte Boulevard. This recommendation is exempt from environmental blah, blah, blah. Do I have to read the whole thing?
Yeah, it helps staff.
Yeah, is exempt from environmental review per 15304 of the CEQA guidelines. Whereas on April 8th, 2024, ISA certified arborist Patrick Kravacher of Denise Duffy and Associates submitted an arborist report, Exhibit A, prepared in accordance with Marina Municipal Code, Chapter 17.62, tree removal, preservation, and protection for the proposed project to remove 11 trees. Whereas on May 6, 2024, it's a duly noticed special public meeting hearing, the tree committee considered TP 24-03 requesting the removal of 11 trees in the public right of way on Del Monte Boulevard. Whereas after receiving public testimony and deliberating on the item, and whereas the project exempt from environmental review per section 15304 of the CEQA guidelines.
Sorry, Chair, I just meant the CEQA exemption. You don't have to read all the whereases.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, that's what I
Just
was
to
asking about.
Sorry, I just meant the CEQA guideline. The CEQA exemption is important for.
Halfway through now.
Oh, sorry. Keep on going.
What? Yeah,
It is
no, I'm laughing at my expense.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I would like to add that the tree committee would like to add the recommendation that whereas Marina is a city of great interest in the environment and our connection to the ocean and the natural environment, that we consider for the planning palette, we make a big statement about who Marina is and what it is with some magnificent street trees, including consideration for coastal live oak, potentially Monterey cypress in a big spot. There are some other trees that are not natives that I think should be considered on the palette. And then for the landscaping, consider a lot of the native species from the area for part of the shrub layer. And I think it'd be a really nice statement. So I think I'd like the committee to consider adding that as a recommendation. Need a second?
I second that.
Do we have a vote? Or you asked for the vote?
Sure. Committee Member Markham.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gardner,
Aye.
Chair Simmons,
Aye.
Committee Member Elvira,
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to move on to item B. Is it item B? The blight removal, tree removal permit TR 24-02. We have any report information from staff?
We do. Okay. So this is our second item tonight. This is tree removal for an association with blight removal project here in Marina. It's for 3 different sites. Here's an overview of the 3 sites, just to give you an idea. The first site is on the southern part of this map on Second Avenue and Devardy, and it's for a future city park as part of the Dunes development. That's the majority of the trees slated for tree removal for this tree removal permit. The other 2 sites, the one that is north of Imjin Parkway, is only 1 tree slated for removal for those 6 buildings slated for blight removal. And then on the eastern dot over down by 5th Avenue and 9th, I believe, 9th Avenue, there's only 1 tree on that side as well. And that tree is growing through the building, which I'll get to later. So starting with project site number 1, this is as I said earlier, this is a future park site. You can see that the trees slated for removal are really close to the buildings. Their canopy and their drip line are really close to the building, and so they need to be removed. Or when you remove the buildings, more of a significant portion of the roots will be removed, most likely, and so therefore will trigger the tree removal requirements. Here is the 1 tree on project site number 2. This is on 11th Street. And it is right next to the building. You can see that there is a cypress right next to it. So in removing the Monterey pine, I'll let Patrick speak to that, but I believe it helps the cypress survive. And then also, yeah, I'll get to that in a little bit. And then here is project site number 3. There are trees surrounding the site which won't be touched because this building is sort of off on its own. And then that tree that's growing through it is right there. So on the project site number 1, there are 3 potential removals. So the arborist is hopeful that these can be saved during the blight removal. So that's why they're potential removals, but they are very close to the building. So they have a potential for being removed through the blight removal process. So the consultant, or the contractor, I should say, who is going to do the removal for the city, staff is recommending they do everything they can to protect these trees. And then if they aren't able to protect them, then they will end up being removals. So these are the 3 trees. These are from the arborist report, pictures of them. They're tree 801, 806, and 808. They are very close to the buildings, but they can pull the buildings away from these trees, hopefully the other direction. So there's a potential that they can be saved. This is site number 2, and this is Monterey cypress, and it's in poor condition currently. Not a lot of what the arborist can speak to the level of how alive it is in the canopy. It doesn't look, that's a picture of it. And then here's a Monterey pine that's growing in through the building. You can see that it has some partial leaf and partial branches. It's in poor health. And it's also, so I have the recommended motion in the staff report. I also added staff recommended condition of approval number 6 in discussion with the chair. There are a number of, and also with the arborist and LV from Public Works, there are a number of trees that are not technically trees by our ordinance. So in order to be a tree in our tree removal ordinance, it has to be at least 6 inches and 6 inches DBH at breast height. And so I've added a condition of approval that says preserve as many Monterey cypress and coastal live oaks as possible that are healthy and between 2 and 6 inches in DBH at 4 feet. during the blight removal and soil remediation at project site number 1. Because when Greg and I walked the site, there are a number of cypress saplings, I guess you could call them. And there was one oak tree, which was not quite a tree yet by our definition, but we're hopeful that those could be protected. So that was my recommendation to add that to the conditions of approval. So that's the end of my presentation. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Does somebody on the committee have any questions for staff or the arborist?
I did, on the potential removals, what's the process with the developer? Does it just go back and forth between you guys and the arborists? Or does it require further approval if they?
Yeah, we're asking for the removal of those, the removal permit approval of those, because even if we do save those trees, we're still impacting so much of the drip line that it triggers a tree removal permit. So yeah, the goal though ultimately is to save them, but you still have to get a removal permit to dig that much into the root zone.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, I think now's the time to ask, are there any comments from the floor, from the public? Nothing. Okay, do we have any discussion amongst ourselves? Yeah, we walked the site and it's actually a pretty wild space with these buildings and it's actually going to be pretty neat. That's a park there and there's a little bit more flexibility maybe than the park design might take into account. So it's really just about what I saw was that the removing the buildings and maybe some of the trees aren't in great shape. Some trees are amazing, even if they're leaning on a building, they still might survive, who knows, but so it's more about that. And I think maybe creatively the demolition crew can try to minimize impacts. I think there's a lot of potential to having a really very nice park. And I'm also reminded, city did a very similar process, sort of to the west, right by where we saw the MST site. To the west of there, that's that landscape with these gigantic cypress on the landscape that looks like a picture in the savannah in Africa or something. You get these big canopy trees. So when the city has things in their own hands, I think they do pretty well. So I have more confidence. Maybe I probably shouldn't say this, but there are sometimes we have developers on a different schedule or something goes wrong, or just, we do have a Marina history of losing some trees that we think we shouldn't have lost. So I have some confidence in the city's commitment to doing things well. I would just suggest also, in addition, there are some native shrubs there. So and we're not the shrub committee, but if we just keep that in mind, that preserve much of the original landscape that might be, particularly native shrubs that could be incorporated in part of the new landscape that would be desirable. Some of them are very, very well established. Coyote bush, for example, there's habitat for wildlife, etc. So that would be the one thing I just added that consideration, along with the trees that don't yet meet our definition of trees. So I feel pretty good about just going forward with this. Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept this declaration.
What?
I make a motion to accept what number is it?
Oh, you can read off the screen in front of you. Can you? So it's TC resolution 2024-02.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt the TC resolution 2024-02, recommending the community development director approve the removal of 22 trees from the city, three city marina parcels. APNS 031-221-009 and 031-251-005 and 031-101-055, subject to the findings, conditions, and approvals in a class 4, section 15304, CEQA exemption for minor alterations to land.
We want to accept the condition of approval recommendation as well.
Recommending what?
The lower paragraph.
COA number 6, preserve as many minor cypress and coastal live oaks as possible that are healthy and between 2 and 6 inches DBH at 4 feet during the blight removal and soil remediation at project site 1 on 2nd Avenue. APN is 031-221-009.
Can I add a condition to the condition without interrupting the motion?
You can add a friendly amendment.
Yeah, friendly amendment. My friendly amendment is in that first statement. Preserve as many Monterey cypress and coastal live oaks and native understory as possible.
Yes, that's fine with me.
Okay. Any second?
I second.
Roll call?
Sure. Member Markham.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gardner,
Aye.
Chair Simmons,
Aye.
Member Illyria.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, very good. Nick, you can't bring up a copy of the agenda. I've made a mess of my pile of paper here.
Sure, I can.
Well, I'll have to be able to read it.
Sure, I'll bring it up.
Okay, that's
Give me
fine.
1 second.
Yeah, they'll bring it up so we can all, so
Yeah.
I've stolen Jackie's, so. We've just finished this. We're on 9. I can maybe find it, but I can.
I got you. Oh, I need to get to the right page.
Well, I didn't get a chance. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're on to action item number 9. So what we did, on our last section was, our last meeting was discuss a work plan and passed it, but we didn't, consider any actions from that work plan. Before we take any action, I should ask, is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this action item? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead. Please identify yourself again, sir.
Hi, my name is Choi again. I might miss it during the conversation, but do we have any timeline for that? Like when supposed to be remove the trees?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. That was the last action item. We just passed a resolution.
Okay.
I can tell you that we just heard from staff that it's going before city council either next meeting or the meeting after that. And if you have further comments or interest in the action, you could bring it to city council because there'll be another chance to talk about the proposed action.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I thought you wanted to talk about our work plan. No close public comment. So this was just an item I had asked Nick that, well, let's put this on the agenda because we passed the work plan. And I think it had been a long meeting because we had other things going on with the surf line. So just a chance now to main thing that we had suggested was that there could be a number of 1 or 2, probably 2 subcommittees coming out of our work plan. So this is really, this is what the action item is about. And so the work plan Nick, are you able to bring that up?
Sure. Pardon the scrolling.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, I'm sure.
Did you want to go to the goals or?
I think so.
So this is goal number 2 right here on the screen.
Yeah, so the 3 goals and we've already, goal 1 is already underway. But we have goal 2 and 3 to consider as forming subcommittees. So that's bringing us all to the same place about this action item. Any comment from anyone about the first goal 2 would be to make recommendations for changes to modernize the city's tree ordinance. And the overarching goal will be to help increase its effectiveness to protect, and promote a healthy urban forestry canopy. So that's what the goal is. No comments? Well, I'm going to nominate myself to work on that activity. Would probably need a second. I need a second person. I can't remember. Would anybody else like to nominate themselves or nominate somebody?
I'll nominate myself for this one.
Okay, 2 nominations. Anybody else interested in working on this item? Can we have a vote amongst ourselves? All those in favor of committee members Simmons and Markham working on this on a subcommittee, say aye, or you're supposed to do this. I want to take away your job.
When we're not on Zoom, you can do it that way, but I
Yeah.
can also call the motion too. It's up
Okay.
to you. So, member Markham,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gardner,
Aye.
Chair Simmons,
Aye.
Member Illyria.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Very good. And then we had item 3. And this was an effort. If you remember, Jeff and I kind of wrote the draft of the work plan, and we were thinking that, well, we had a pretty long list. We only have so much time, so we tried to, rather than pick and choose the other things, we just said, well, maybe there's some other things that would come out of our study of other tree committees that would inform us. And in the process of kind of reading about work plans that myself, I saw, well, gosh, some tree committees do a lot of different things. And even our own Marina Tree Committee has got a long history. So that was this idea, was that look at other ways or strategies or other tree committees that might help influence city policy and public interest to promote a more robust urban forest and marina. I'm on 2 subcommittees, so I'm not electing myself to be on a 3rd or nominating myself. So if anybody has any interest, just speak up, or we can leave it as a pending item if we're not ready to do that. No discussion? Okay. No, this is items, you want to say that on for the record?
So you've already researched San Francisco's tree ordinance, street and parks.
I have not. So that's what we're going to do in number 2, is looking at ordinances. Number 3 is maybe it's a little vague because we wrote it very open, but number 3 was, are there other things from our list? For example, we had a list of, let's map all the trees in Marina, which is a great idea. Let's see what other tree committees do, not the ordinance, but the body of the tree committee. How do they promote a healthy urban forest? How do they influence others? The ordinance itself, number 2, that's really technical. That's like law. That's like, what is the city going to do? But there are other things, let's call them the social science side of committees and city government and, you know, soft side of things, not law, but maybe persuasion or like behavioral economics, nudging, those sorts of things. I mean, it could be almost anything. It's just, is anybody interested in doing something else in that arena? And if you are, then we can form another committee. I don't know if that helps, but
I personally, I think number 2 is gonna take a lot of time. So I would not be able to sign up for 3. So I'm wondering if maybe leaving this one pending and knocking off when we get 1 and 2 done, return to 3.
yeah, that's what I would favor unless somebody was interested in trying to start something. And, you know, I think we're getting Richard back. So we'll have more, you know, we'll have more of us.
Can we give them a future action item?
Let's, all those in favor of just leaving this pending? I don't know that we have to vote on this. We just don't take action.
When would the report need to be presented to the tree committee?
We have, sometime during our term, you know, we have, actually, can we ask staff? Because since we've last met, the city has, the council has voted to extend our terms for 2 years. Can you explain the mechanics of that?
So the action that city council made was to change the zoning ordinance so that terms are now the same length as planning commission terms. So they're now 2 years. I don't believe any of that action was just to change the code. So they didn't make an action on extending your terms yet. So action will have to happen at the end of this year. So that going forward, it will be 2-year terms.
So does that mean that our terms are still 1 year unless city council takes action?
That's correct. So your term is still your same term. So, and then going forward, the way it's written now, it will be 2-year terms going forward.
Okay, so that's, I think I misunderstood what was happening. So our term still is really just 1 year.
For now, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, is there a way to extend our terms without having to interview and apply all over again, or that's what we have to do?
I believe that's the path going forward. Staff did, because it was only 1 year and this is a newly reappointed subcommittee of the City Council and Planning Commission. Staff thought it was wise to extend you an additional year as we did last year without going through that same process of interviews and whatnot. So that process, that extension type thing will probably not happen again this year. It'll probably be just a similar thing you'll do where you apply an interview. So that's my assumption, but I can't foretell the future. So I'll see what.
Oh yeah, we're already on our second year because.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is the final date? So we really didn't start until March. So is the final date going to be March of 2025 or it'll be December
I think
31st?
it's December 31st, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's a very long-winded way to get back to you, Judith. We don't have that much time. So between now and the end of our term we're going to make progress. Well, it's not as much time as I was thinking, actually. But we do, we have about half a year. A little more than half a year, actually. We have 7 months.
Mhm.
All right. I think we will move on to the next item. Do we have any other items? None. Number 10. And I'm sorry, are we through with 9? Is anybody?
Yeah.
But okay. Number 11, no. Number 12, none. Number 13, I hereby call our meeting in adjournment. I think that's it.